In this video, I'm going to be guiding you through some useful information on selecting and making use of belts in your weight training. For most people, the time to add the belt will not be in their first week of training. In order to make most use of the belt, you have to first know how to breathe and brace properly. All the belt does is enable the lifter to make a more forceful contraction against the belt with their abdominal muscles and brace up more firmly. But if the lifter doesn't know how first to breathe and brace correctly in training, the belt won't do anything. So before you select or make any purchase of a belt, always make sure you've spent some time, and with the people I coach, that could be anything from 3 weeks to a couple of months before we add the belt. To briefly recap the correct breathing and bracing, take a large inhale, tense up your abdominal region here all the way around, and then perform the exercise. Take a breath for every rep that you do. Now, when it comes to selecting a belt, the first thing you need to know is the belt that we wear in strength training is not like a fashion belt that you might wear on trousers. So, whereas you may be used to having a belt around the waistband area, underneath where your belly button would be, in weight training, the belt is going to go higher. It's going to be going across the front of your belly button. And to find the positioning for the belt, if you reach onto the front of your body here for your hip pointer, the ASIS, the belt will be above this position. And if you find your lowest rib, it's going to be underneath there. So it's going to be in this section of the abdomen here. Usually that will cross the belly button. That's where your belt's going to go. Once you've got this, you can start to select the size of belt you're going to use. Now, these two belts I've got here are 4-inch belts. So they're 4 inches across here. And with my build in my upper body, that 4 inches is fine in this region, and I prefer that. However, it's very common with many male lifters and women that are lifting that they actually prefer a smaller belt, a 3-inch belt. This is a 3-inch belt here. You can see the difference, slight difference in size there. And a 3-inch belt fits very comfortably into this region for most people. The 4 doesn't work so well for everybody. So it's worth, in your gym, checking out a couple of belts in terms of that, going through things like the deadlift motion, and going through the squat, and when you're down in those tight positions, feeling if there's any kind of trapping or impingement that might indicate going for a smaller belt. Some belts on the market even come in at 2 inches, but generally a 4 or a 3 are the most common types of belts available. The next consideration is how thick the belt should be. My general guidance is to use a 10mm belt. This gives you enough pliability in the belt. It is not so stiff that it's so rigid. Generally speaking, if you need a thicker belt like a 13mm, you'll already have been lifting for some considerable time. You might be competing and you'll already know that you need a 13, but for the vast majority of people, myself included, I'm lifting on a 10mm thick belt. The next consideration is how we fasten the belt. And so there's really 2 ways forward here, and both are good. This is a single prong belt, and if you're going to get a buckle belt, then I recommend a single prong, not a double prong, as it's easier to get on and get off basically when you're doing your training. So this is a 3-inch Dominion belt, a leather belt, and with this belt, it fits very comfortably on me. I do prefer the 4-inch. This is, like I said, it's a 3-inch belt, but mostly in between every exercise, in between every set of the exercise, because we need to get it quite tight to get the benefit of it, in between I need to release the belt. So I'm going to be taking the belt on and off constantly during a working set, and that's a little bit troublesome when you're already fatigued from doing a heavy set of 5, but it's not insurmountable, but you should know that. Now, if I compare that to a lever belt, here, the lever fastens pretty quickly on me. I can fit the belt here, and then I just snap it closed. Now it's on, and if I'm resting in between my sets, flick like that, and I've got the space here to breathe a bit more comfortably, and then I can lock it before my next set. So the levers, I really like the levers, but there's drawbacks to both systems. I'll take you through them now to help you make a decision on the kind of belt that you want to get. All right. So first of all, These belts here are made by Inzer, I-N-Z-E-R, and I like both these belts. They're really, really well made. This buckle's a bit different, and I'll talk about that in a second. All right, so here's the deal. If you are lifting, if you are training at home and you're training alone, or you're training in the gym and you're training by yourself, you can get a lever. With a lever, you will adjust it just to your waist. So with this, you're going to take a screwdriver and you're going to literally plug it into the position you want and screw it in. So during your set, you will not be able to readjust the positions of the belt. This is a job for a screwdriver. It takes about 5 minutes. And so in that regard, the belt only really works properly for you or for someone of pretty much the same dimensions as you in the waist and the same build. If you're sharing a belt, if you're lifting at home, maybe family, or you're training with friends, or you're buying a belt for a gym that needs to be used by many people, then the prong buckle is the way to go, because many people can just fasten that according to what they need. All right, that's the great thing about these belts. Also, if you're feeling a little bloated, if you're experiencing the weight going up or down, or you just want to lighten the belt out, then you can quickly make that adjustment on a buckle belt, which is why a lot of people like those kind of belts. All right. Now, I said there was another belt here. So this last one is my personal preference that I recommend at the moment. This is the one that I like to use the most, and this is the best possible system I've found. So this belt here is an Inzer belt in this section here, and what I've done is I've added a Pioneer lever to it. It's a PAL lever. So what this gives me is a series of teeth along here. So whereas before, in that lever, you could only lock it in one position, here, once I lock it, I can lock it in several positions. So it gives me anything from 1 to 3 inches or so across here, which means I can adjust it really, really easily. So if I'm feeling that in the deadlift I might want a little bit more room, I can space the belt out so that I've got a bit more space here. Or if I want it a bit tighter for, let's say, the press, I can bring it in tighter here, and I can close it down and get it to clamp shut. And then again, in between sets, I've got the clamp like so, just the way I like. All right, so here's what you're gonna do. First of all, you need to figure out the space in between here. Try a couple belts to see if you're a 3 or a 4 inch. Most people will take a 3, some people prefer the 4, but 3 is generally very user-friendly. I recommend 10mm thick. I don't recommend that you go as cheap as you can, because the quality of the material here really affects the lift, so don't go cheap. It's worth spending a bit more money on a belt that's gonna last you for life. I also don't recommend 2 types of belts that I don't suggest you get. So first is a Velcro belt. I'm not keen on Velcro belts, as I've had a couple lifters that have used them, and during the process of something like the deadlift, I've heard the belt start to disengage. The separating sound that Velcro makes when you tear it apart, I've heard that during a lift. It is very unsettling to the lifter and to the coach. So I'm not confident on recommending a Velcro belt. Secondly, I'm not confident on recommending a tapered belt. A tapered belt is a belt that has a wide diameter of the belt at the back of it and a thinner diameter at the front. Now, these belts do work, but I'm less keen on them because they do not provide an even distribution of pressure all around the abdominal region. You get a thick patch at the back and a thin space here, and so you can't really pressure up. Remembering that the principal job of the belt is to help you pressure up and brace correctly. So if we diminish that by 50% on half of you, we lose that effect that we're trying to get. Apart from that, there are loads of makers out there, and the UK, for example, we've got Strength Shop, I mentioned Pioneer. These are Inzer belts, these ones here, and this is the Pioneer lever, the PAL lever, that I really like as well, because it gives me that adjustability that I have with the buckle belt, but as well as the lever function, which I love. Okay, so that's pretty much everything I've got on belts. After this, if you still have a belt question, go ahead and ping me a message on social media or wherever you see this video. And for anything else, you can reach out to me for coaching inquiries online or in person, strengthrevolution.org.